when you are awake, the light of that awareness shining on what's happening, right, has an effect on what you see, right? Because your awareness is a context. Your awareness is a context. Love is a context. You could say that who we are, if you want to take it all away, right, is unconditional love, right? And love is a context. When you look at what you're looking at with the eyes of unconditional love, you don't see what you see when you're looking at it as a personality. When you look at what you're looking at with the eyes of love, with the eyes of awareness, with the eyes of contentment, satisfaction, peace, and understanding and clarity, when you're looking at what you're looking at with that awareness, what you see is not the same thing as you would see when you look at it from a personality, right? So that's part one. So what you're seeing is different than what you would see if you were seeing it from the view of a personality, right? Now, part two is the way things occur for you is what determines how you behave. Is it not? The way things occur for you. So one of my teachers said, the way things occur for you is in a dance with your behavior. It's in a dance with your behavior. And the way that I demonstrated this one time here before, but I won't do it with that bottle because it's almost full. If I take this bottle and throw it at you, right, you go like this, right? Sure. The way things occur for you determines your behavior. The bottle's coming at you, you go like this, right? That's an example of something that's absolutely true all the time, all the time. If you're ever angry, right, ask yourself a question. In answer to why am I angry, you will describe what's occurring from your view, and that will justify your anger, right? Sure. Yeah. So if you understand this, right, then you realize what the practice is, once you're awake, first you have to get awake, right? But once the practice is, once you're awake, is to pay attention. Because with an awakeness, with awareness, the way things occur for you will be realistic, will be real, will be true, the way they are. Why? Because you're short-circuiting the process. The typical process is what's happening, goes in the brain, gets interpreted, gets turned into an understanding, right? Gets turned in. So a person's behaving a certain way, right? And the brain will look at that behavior and say, oh, that person's threatening you. That's an interpretation. They may not be threatening you. They may have no idea that you think they're threatening you, right? But the brain tells you that person's threatening you, and all of a sudden, what do? You go into fight, flight, right? You go into fight or flight. You start defending yourself, or you get aggressive, right? The way that occurred for you determined your behavior.
Is that the context then? Is that what you mean?
Well, context determines how things show up. The context of awareness in its absolute form is the context of unconditional love. When you look through the eyes of unconditional love at people, what do you see? When you look through the eyes of unconditional love at yourself, what do you see? When you look at the world with unconditional love, what do you see? You see that we are all the same, right? We are all the same. And the suffering that occurs is a function of people's being hypnotized and being asleep. And they don't know they're hypnotized, and they don't know they're asleep. So because that's what you see when you look through the eyes of awareness, right? What you have for that person is compassion, not anger, compassion, right? You understand instant karma. Do you know what instant karma is?
Instant karma, you said?
Yeah. Well, listen to the song. It's a song, right? Instant karma. Instant karma is the most realistic and the most immediate karma that's available. In other words, instant karma is the way you're behaving, right? The consequences of your behavior are immediate. So an angry person, right? The karma for an angry person is they have to suffer being angry. They never notice that, right? Instant karma means that what you give, you take. What you give, you take. If you give love, you get love. You give hate, you get hate.
Like Pima says?
Who?
Pima?
Yeah, sure. So that's that's an important understanding to have, right? You'll start being a little more careful if you understand, right? You'll start being a little more careful what comes out of your mouth. You'll start being a little more careful of the actions you take, right?
Okay, so my question is, you said when you give love, you get love back, or if you give hate, you get hate back. So I think that's a part of the reason why I'm having this anxiety. I'm someone who gives loves a lot, but then sometimes that loves get taken advantage of. I'm a very thorough student. I'm a strong student. This is my second time in school. I already have a degree in health science and biology, so I went back for nursing for a career change, and I was tutoring a lot of the classmates at the school, and a couple of them didn't pass the class, and they started to behave aggressive and angry towards me. And because I'm a loving person and I give love, it kind of made me go into, I guess, a mild depression or have anxiety. I don't want to claim depression, because I think when you claim it or when you put it into the universe, you start to psychologically believe that. So my question is that true in every situation? Because I was giving love but was receiving hate back, and it hurt me.
Okay. So here's the quick and easy answer to your question. The you that it hurt isn't you. The you that it hurt is the you that you were conditioned to believe as you, which means that you were conditioned to believe that, what's your name?
Markel.
Markel?
Yes.
You were conditioned to believe you are Markel. You were conditioned to believe that you are the personality that Markel is, right? And it's that personality that is vulnerable. It's that personality that looks at things like it's got to be a good trade-off. If I love you, you got to love me. If I love you and you don't love me, something's wrong here. I should treat you different now, you see. But that's only because you're operating from the understandings of your conditioning and your understandings as a personality, and you're a typical personality, because that's how personalities are. They're vengeful, right? Mm-hmm. So as you continue to practice meditation and you start to wake up and come out of that identity, you realize that you're big enough to be with anything. Mm-hmm. You can be with hate. You can be with other people's behavior. Now, when I say that, I don't mean just don't to become a doormat. I don't say just take whatever they want to give you, right? But you can be angry and you can do what you need to do to stop somebody from hurting you, right? And still love them. Mm-hmm. You can do that in love, right? And if you do it in love, there's compassion. You know what I mean? You're not doing anything beyond what you have to do to stop them from hurting you physically. That's pretty much the bottom line. Okay. Other than that, well, who cares what they say? You know, I worked in prisons for 32 years, right, with some of the toughest people on the planet, right? And I would challenge them. I would call them names, you know. I would push their buttons. I would say things to them you're not supposed to say to people, right? But in the context of the work we were doing, it was to show them that they didn't have to be what their voice in their head told them to be, or what the voice in their head told them to do. It was giving them the opportunity to experience the difference between letting your mind and your emotions run the show, and your thoughts run the show, instead of letting your awareness run the show. Right. And so because of the work I did with them, there were guys who came out of that prison, got completely off drugs, got into the work life, went to college, right, and never went back to prison again. That's not supposed to happen. Right. Psychologists agree, generally speaking, that antisocial personalities and sociopathic people are impossible to treat. Impossible to treat, right? Well, that's just only because they have no realistic perception or understanding of how to do that, right? But these people are the same as me and you know? The only reason they call them an antisocial personality is because the skills they learn, given where they came from, you know, if you grew up in the street and you grew up with the wrong color skin, right, where you can't feel like you're going to get a fair shake in the world, right, then that type of personality develops a different way of moving in the world, you know. The law that applies to everybody else doesn't apply to me because life isn't fair, right? And that's the beginning of a criminal behavior, right? But once those people in prison saw the possibility, saw that they weren't that, they weren't the personality, they didn't have to be what their past made them, they were free. They were free, and then they realized it's up to me. It's up to me. I can do you. You obviously already know that because you are creating your life for yourself, right? You're not being stopped by the bullshit, right?
Right.
And so, but there are a lot of people in prison that were stopped by the bullshit, and all they need is to have an opportunity to wake up and see the truth. And having seen that truth, they get it. When they get it, when somebody in prison gets it, it's really a mind blower for them, because for them it changes their life. It completely changes their life. You know, I knew guys in prison that they turned the prison into a monastery. Took advantage of the situation. Hey, I don't have to pay rent. They feed me. They give me a place to sleep. That's a monastery. I can practice meditation all day, right? And so that's what they did, right? So, you know, when you wake up, when you begin to see things as they really are, not the way you thought they were, not the way they told you they were, when you start to use your own awareness and see things the way they really are, you see a different world and you see different possibilities. And you're not limited anymore. You know that you don't have to be stopped by fear. You don't have to be stopped by anything. You're not a personality. That's the wake up here. The wake up is the discovery that personality was what you learned you were, right? But if you had a head injury and you lost your memory, you wouldn't have a personality anymore. So how real is it? See, it's a program. And the awareness is not a program. The awareness is real, and the awareness can see, and the awareness can know what it's looking at. So why bother with, you know, why stay as a personality? You know what I mean? Do the meditation practice, do the learning necessary to come out of that misunderstanding, right? It's not an easy thing to do because it's like hypnosis, but it is possible. And if you do come out of it, your life will be a different life.
I want to come out of it.
Okay, well then, you know, you got to get a meditation practice. You've got to commit to learning the teachings. There's teachings that go along with this. If you learn the teachings and the meditation practice and you put those two together and you do that consistently, waking up is inevitable. And once you wake up, you know, then you're here. Then you're really here, seeing things as they are. Then you can go to work on dealing with the situation you find yourself in and have the power to do it.
Okay.
Okay?